Greetings everyone. In this video, I'll be talking about how to set up a self-hosted Supabase installation. Supabase, as you can see here, is the open source Firebase alternative. It's a suite of tools built around the Postgres database, and it's generally for people who prefer to use SQL compared to NoSQL databases. It's a cloud-based system, so the way that you'd use it is that you'd go ahead to the website, start your project, and it would manage the resources that your project needs, and then you'd pay according to the plan that you select, with whether it's the free tier for starter projects or $25 per month for more resources. But it's a tool that's built on open source projects, and it allows us to self-host a project if we so choose, and it provides documentation on how to do so, and you can look at it and see the instructions for how to configure the different components. And if you do everything right, it works, but from my experience, from time to time you will run into issues and it would not be obvious how to resolve them. You might think that if you have a problem, you would just fix it and restart, but as you will see, it doesn't always work that way. And to get started, we're going to need some tools. The first tool that we're going to need is Docker Compose. And if you're working on a Mac, you can, or Windows, you can use Docker Desktop. But just make sure to get the version for the chip that you're using. I'm going to be using the one for the Apple chip. I already have it installed. And once you've done that, then we can go ahead and clone the Supabase repository. Okay, so now that it's complete, let's see what we have. Okay, and the most important files are in the Docker directory. So, let's check out the environment variables first. So here we have some values that are important for our project. But just to get started, I'm going to use the default values so that we can just get the project up and running quickly. So let's go back to the terminal. And we run Docker Compose up command to create our container. Okay, then it looks like the server is running. So what we'll do now is we'll create a React project to test our installation. So let's create a new tab and generate a new project. Okay, let's go to the parent directory. Okay, our project has been set up, and now we'll install the Supabase library. Okay, now we'll open the project. Now let's create a client to initialize our library. We call it Supabase client.js. Now we'll import create client function. And we'll need our Supabase URL, which will be localhost on port 8000. And then we'll need the Supabase key. We'll use the unknown key. Okay, and we'll need to get that from our Supabase configuration file. The fastest way to find it would be to go to here. So we just copy that. Okay, and create a client instance. And export that instance. Now let's go to the app.js file and import the client as Supabase. Now let's use the library and see what we get. Okay, here we are making a query to the countries table and selecting all the records. This won't actually work because we don't currently have a countries table, but it should give us enough information to know if we've set up everything correctly. What we'll be looking for is to make sure that we don't get an error saying an invalid signature or some kind of unauthorized error. Okay, so let's run this. Okay, we'll need to set it on a different port. Okay, let's inspect it and see what we get. Okay, this is looking good. We just get a not found error, so it says that the relation does not exist. That is what we want. And now we are going to create that countries table. And we're going to use the countries.sql from Supabase. I already have it saved somewhere, so let me get it. Okay, we'll select that. And in order to set up this table, we need to access the PostgreSQL client. We can do that from the Docker container. So we go to the container and we look for Supabase DB, and then we open the client, and from here we should be able to access our database. And we paste in the code to create our table. Okay, everything's good there. And now we'll go back to our demo application and see what we get. And as you see, we get our list of countries. And that lets us know that our installation is working correctly. But the problem is that we're using the default settings, which is not very secure. So if you plan to use your Supabase installation in production, you would want to update those values, and that's what we'll do now. Let's go back to our Docker configuration. And the environment file. And we're going to update these passwords. And where shall we start? Let's start with the operator token. I think that's used by the go-through server. And we'll generate that password with OpenSSL. And let's generate another one for our JWT secret. And let's use a simpler password for our Postgres database. Just for the sake of demonstration, you should use a more secure password if you're deploying your installation in production. Okay, then. Is there anything else that we need to configure? I think that's it. Okay, I think we'll need to update. We need to update the Postgres password from the client, because if we just restart the container, the database as it already exists would expect the old password and we would have problems. So let's do that. Let's go back to the Postgres client. Okay, and let's update the password. Alter user Postgres with encrypted password. Okay, that should work. Now let's go back to our Docker configuration. Now that we've set the JWT secret, we'll need to update our anon and service keys. The way I'm going to approach it is that I'm going to take an existing key and then I'll decrypt it by going to jwt.io and then I'll paste in the old key and it shows us the structure of the key and what we need to change. We don't need to change anything. We just need to provide the new JWT secret. So let's get that. So we have a new unknown key. Now we need to enter this in two places. Well, the first is here. And more importantly, we need to update the Kong configuration. And we'll also need to update or generate a new service key. So we'll just change the role to service role and make sure that it has our new JWT secret. We'll copy this and paste it here. And here. That should be it. And now we'll copy the unknown key that we're using in our demo app. And now we just need to restart our container. I'll just press Ctrl C and that allows us to stop the container without destroying our images. If we did Docker compose down, then it would delete all the images and then we'll need to recreate everything. And if you don't want to lose your data, that's something to be mindful of. Okay, so let's restart. Okay, our survey is ready. Let's go back to the demo application. Okay, and we're seeing an error, invalid authentication credentials. This is one of the common errors that I talked about at the beginning of the video. So let's look into it. Okay, I'm going to inspect our Kong setup. So let's go to the CLI and let's see what we have in as you can see here, it contains our old values, so we'll need to update them. And rather than editing this file directly, I'm going to remove this container and recreate it. Okay, so let's go back to Docker desktop. Let's stop this. And then let's go to images. It says it's still in use. Let's remove it. And let's remove the image. Image removed. And let's restart our Docker container. Seems I've lost it. Seems that may not have been the best way to go about it. Okay, let's try that again. Okay, this is looking promising. Let's go to Docker first. Let's inspect our Kong container. As you can see, the correct values are there. Let's go to our React application. And now we have our data. So we've successfully updated our Supabase credentials, generated a new GWT secret and a new anon and service key. So there you have it. That's how you do a self-host of Supabase. And this would work on an Ubuntu server as well. So you can set up your installation on something like DigitalOcean and it should work the same way. So thank you for watching.